Hi, welcome to Bedtime Terror, the show where I watch a scary movie before bed and let you know how I think I'm going to sleep. My name is Bobby, and tonight's review is going to be on 1991's Popcorn. Let's get into it. So, there will be some spoilers. Popcorn is about a group of film students who decide to put on a retro 1960s horror movie marathon all night at a old theater that's going to be torn down soon to raise money for their film club. And in the process of setting up, they discover a old film from the 70s from this like acid trip surrealist avant-garde director who was ridiculed and belittled for his film. So, as a way to seek revenge, he puts out another movie. And the final act of it is him murdering his family on stage in front of the audience that has been locked inside of the theater and then setting it on fire for everyone to burn and die inside. And so it seems like 15 years later that there is a killer amongst the students who is trying to pick them off one by one. So, I'm going to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like. Now, I liked this movie a lot. This movie was really fun. It, although it's very minimal on gore, it doesn't have any nudity. It's pretty mild on profanity. It still had really good elements of suspense when it did have it there. I did jump a few times. It sucks you in pretty quickly into the film. It's only an hour and a half long, but within 15 minutes, you're already into it and getting a few scares within the 20-minute mark. I really liked the tongue in cheekness and wink and the nod at some of it. You know, they had implemented those castle films from like the 1960s that were a mix of like sci-fi horror. You know, think of like the attack of the 500-foot ant from Mars type thing, type films, and that implemented gimmicks like smell-o-vision, things like that. I thought that was really cool that they use that in the film. But not only did they use that in the film, but they use those same gimmicks and props as means of murder, which I thought was pretty smart for them to do. It was very slick. I really liked the movies within the movie. Like I said, they had those 1960s sci-fi horror-esque films that they showed for the marathon, and the ones that they made for this, the show and the movie in Popcorn was actually really well done, pretty entertaining to point that even I was like into watching these fake black and white movies. And it seemed like the crowd was too, about the audience. So there's a reggae band in this movie. There's a lot of reggae music in this movie, which I really was into, and I actually recognized some of the songs from my childhood growing up, hearing my parents playing it. So maybe that's why I was very into it. But I was able to sing along with some of these songs, even though I don't know the name of the band or the name of the songs. It's just stuff I hear around the house. So if anyone knows what the band was or the name of the song, please let me know. Because as soon as I got done watching the movie, instead of, coming here straight to do my review, I went online, I went to IMDb, Google, Wikipedia, trying to find out who the band was in this movie, and I couldn't. Even looking at this, the songs in the movie, I didn't see anything that said a particular band in the credits. So that's how I found out that this movie was actually filmed in Jamaica, which I liked because, especially back then in the 80s and 90s, a lot of movies you could almost tell exactly where in the nation it was. You could tell, like, oh, well, this was obviously filmed in like the New Jersey, New York, area. This is in, everything they're talking about somewhat relates to that. For example, I just watched Night of the Comet, which go and watch that review after this one if you haven't seen that already. But if you're from the Southern California area, then you could figure out roughly where these girls are. Like, I was like, oh, these girls are probably from like Van Nuys or like Antelope Valley, like that's how specific these films were. Whereas with this movie being filmed in Jamaica, it felt more like generic town USA, which I liked more. And I even liked the audience that was in the theater, even though they're all just a bunch of teenagers, they're extras. I guess because like it's filmed in Jamaica, so I'm guessing they had probably had crew members that brought their kids with them because it's beautiful tropical island. So you have some like white kids that are in the audience, but also a bunch of like native kids to Kingston. So you also have some like Asian kids, a bunch of black kids, some Latino kids, like just a good mix of like races in this audience. And they are having a good time. Like you could tell these kids are not just pretending to have a good time for the cameras. They're enjoying themselves. They are, rowdy. They're laughing. They're throwing popcorn at the mosquito flying through the movie theater. They're cracking jokes at the theater screen. Like there was a moment where the actress on screen says, "Kiss me, Dick," and you hear a kid in the theater say, "Kiss your what?" And these things you could tell weren't scripted, that they were just having a good time being teens, being kids. And it's infectious. You feel that as a viewer, so you get really into it too. And something else I noticed, and I was like, what? This never happens. I think this may have been like the first moment ever in like horror movie history where we had a black person like make it to beginning to end of the movie. She did not die, you guys. She wasn't the first one killed. She wasn't in harm's way at all the whole time. Like, I was amazed. She's a real one. Like, salute. Like, this may have been the first one ever where the black person survives and lives the whole time. I was in shock. That alone should make this a 5 out of 5, but I digress. So, now what I didn't like about this movie. Maybe because, I learned while trying to figure out the song that there was two different directors. And there is a difference in tonality with the movie. Some moments feel more serious and suspenseful and thrilling than others, where others feel more schlocky and campy. However, I think that kind of adds to its benefit because it's campy without being corny. It's a lot of wink and nod and, everyone's in on the joke, which I've noticed. I feel like this movie is a movie out of time. Like it was too late for the 1980s slasher phase that was at that point fading out. but it was self aware in a smart way. I'm not going to say that it's a smart movie, that's giving it way too much credit, but it was aware of itself without being too self aware, like movies that we see in the later 90s, like in Scream. So it feels like it was almost ahead of its time in one way and behind the times in another. But it's still a really good movie. I see why it's a cult classic. Um, Another thing I didn't like was when they revealed the killer's face. He's a burn victim, and this makeup is really bad. It looks just like really bad putty and band aids, which I don't understand why the prosthetic was done badly, the mask was done badly, because we see throughout the film that they have the capability of having really good masks and prosthetics because they were using them previously. So I don't understand why that was a breakdown at that point, which is like the moment that you really want to see that like messed up beyond Freddy type burn face, and it sadly didn't deliver. It lacked that. Otherwise, this is a really good movie. I really enjoy it. I see why people are huge fans of it. And I feel like if I had seen this movie when I was like 10, this would be one of those like movies that I hold dear to my heart forever. If you're a 90s kid, this definitely seems like one of those movies that you either would have seen the cover for at your local movie rental store and just been like, I don't know what this is, but it looks cool, so I'm gonna rent it and like love it. Or you would have seen it on like when USA Network used to have Saturday Nightmares, or their Friday up all night marathons. They would have those like really cheesy B 80s and 90s horror films late at night. It feels like this would have definitely fit in there. So if that sounds like something you'd be into, definitely recommend this movie. I would give it a solid 3 out of 5. I would watch it again. I really enjoyed it, and I recommend everyone else to check it out. The link for this movie will be in the description below. Also, check out my iceberg. This is on tier 1 of that iceberg. There are 4 other tiers I will be making my way through and reviewing. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, and come back and watch for next time. Oh, also check me out on IG. That's at Bedtime Terror. Again, at Bedtime Terror on IG. Thank you again so much. I do appreciate your eyes. And until then, sleep well, guys. Bye.